Hey guys, and welcome to Faewood. So this video is a whole lot of beadwork going on to the necklace. It's actually 15 hours worth of footage that I've condensed down to hopefully a bite-sized video for you guys to enjoy. Now, I had a really nice piece of druzzy and I really wanted to incorporate that into this necklace, and it was quite a challenge to bead around this. I did start by using delicate beads and then realized I didn't really like how that was turning out and it was getting a bit lost. So I actually used a size 8 bead and then square beads, and then went down to a size 15 bead. Now it's quite a tall, I guess I'd call it a cabochon, but I mean it's not really domed, but it's got the flat back on it. So anyway, I figured it could handle this chunky chain going around it. The colour scheme I'm going for, as you might be able to tell, is very much using gold tones, bronze, and then an amethyst purple. So bringing in the colour of the dark crystal with those amethyst tones, but then also having these opulent and over the top antique gold / bronzy coloured tones in there as well. So lots of like bronze seed beads, and then a mixture of like gold seed beads and some luster, like gold luster, or you know, sort of iris metallic colors as well, and then bringing in some brass beads as well. So I had these really gorgeous sew-on Swarovski crystals that are that amethyst color and in a gold setting, and I used those at the points of this lace. So the lace, the way I've done it is so that the top of it will sort of stick past the collar line, I suppose you'd say, and give it an interesting end to the collar, like these little segments that will stick up past the collar. I also had these really nice check leaves that are a copper finish. So one side of them's got, you know, a copper, I don't know if you'd say like leaf, but copper metallic color on one side, and then the other side's clear crystal. And they looked really good. I thought I liked the way that they stuck out from the piece as well, sort of in the same way that the lace is, adding to that three-dimensional look, I guess, in a beading form, as well as having the lace be sort of three-dimensional. Now you'll notice I'm mimicking the same pattern of beads across each segment of lace. So the lace is a pattern, and each segment has the same shapes to it, so it sort of looks like a flower with leaves or something coming out from it, and I've really kept that same pattern along the whole, like each part of it. Now you guys might remember me showing you these beautiful glass cabochons. Now I believe they're a vintage German cabochon, and they look very like druzzy like, and they have sort of a volcano finish, so color changing, you know, changing from those rich purple tones, and then in certain lights having a bit of a green flash and a yellow flash and that sort of thing. And I thought they'd be perfect to really bring in that purple, almost magical colour from the dark crystal into this piece. Now I use the exact same seed bead colours to surround these two cabochons as I did with that druzzy cabochon at the top of the piece. So I've used a size 8 in a bronze metallic. I've got these, I think they're a gold iris square bead. That's a size 11, and then a size 15 seed bead that I've used in a gold luster and then in just gold. And then I put some pyrite pieces in the center of each of the brassy, bronzy lace bits. I've used a bead cap that's a copper color, and then these beautiful pyrite beads, which are like an old gold. Perfect color for this piece. Now I was conscious of the fact that the gold lace at the front of the necklace is really bright in comparison to the really aged, vintagey, brassy looking lace that's at the back. So I really needed to work on incorporating those two colours and meshing those tones together. So the way I did that was to do beadwork that was in a lot of darker, more bronzy, brassy tones on top of the gold to tone down that gold. Now I just slowly worked up the beads using the same sorts of beads as I was using, so the same square beads, the same size 15 colour beads that I was using, those luster beads. I also then incorporated some Swarovski crystal in that, I think it's called Solomon colour. It's a really lovely opalescent purple colour, and I love that colour so much. And that brought a bit of purple in and still meshed in. Like, I liked the fact that the tones were similar, so that it really did give an antiqued look. If things are too contrasting, it looks a bit newer. If your colour palette is more similar in tone and just slightly nuanced, it does look like the piece has been aged somewhat, because you can imagine if something fades in time, the colours do start becoming less vibrant and pop less. But I'm really keeping that sense of opulence with so many crystals being used in this piece. So I used these beautiful golden shadow Swarovski crystals. I've forgotten the name of this stone. I think it's something like galactic stones or something. And there's a few different variations of shape. They came out at the same time. And I've had them in my stash for a while, and I just thought they looked perfect in this piece. I needed something that was a little bit larger. There was a lot of really fine, detailed beadwork happening in amongst the lace. And I felt to ground the design, I needed something for your eye to rest on, I guess, and something larger and more simple looking, if you can call a large Swarovski crystal simple looking. But I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess sometimes when I'm doing a design, if it looks too busy, I want something larger to be incorporated. When we're talking about beadwork, that gives your eye somewhere to rest, I guess, and breaks up that busyness with some bigger pieces. I also used the same check leaves that I used earlier, And again, by using similar beads, you do start to incorporate a consistency across the piece. I try not to put too many elements into a piece because it can get too busy, too complicated, and that actually works against you sometimes. So I'm always thinking about when I'm bringing in something new, I'm really careful. It needs to really make sense with the rest of the piece, but a lot of times I do like to mirror the same beads in other parts of the piece. So you can see at the front here, I've got a brass piece that's going around that smaller German druzzy crystal, I guess, and I thought that worked perfectly. It's actually a finding for an earring, and it just circled that cabochon really perfectly and gave it a really nice point to the end of the piece. So I like the fact that the collar's going to have a nice, sharp-ish point to the end. So there's not a lot of level of difficulty in the actual stitches used in this piece. It can look really overwhelming when you see a piece like this in its entirety, but honestly I'm mostly using back stitch and stop stitch. Very, very simple stitches. It's just that when you're seeing that much detail in the design itself, it can look like it's more difficult than it actually is. So I've basically spared no expense when it comes to the beads I've used in this piece, because I really feel like I needed to have that sense of opulence. The Skeksis would not do things in halves when it comes to jewellery or their clothing or whatever. It made more sense to really go to town with all the crystals and everything. So I basically just slowly worked the piece up, and that's how I tend to work all the time, is I'll start to add elements when I'll try a few things, and when I feel sure about something, I'll put it on there, and then there might be a whole lot of area that still needs beadwork or, design to be added, but I might need to slowly work out how I'm putting it together, and as I add elements, it sometimes informs my next choices as far as the design goes. Now you'll notice I'm sneaking in some Swarovskis in underneath some of the lace. Now this is a bit ostentatious, I guess, these aren't cheap crystals, so I can definitely understand if you didn't want to do something like this in a design, but I really loved the idea of you seeing these little peaks of crystals sparkling through the lace, because that lace is semi-transparent, and I've put them in such a way that you can catch glimpses of those crystals in amongst the piece. It also did help to unify the piece a bit as well, because I had so many Swarovskis at the front of the collar that I really felt like I needed some of those larger stones back in the back part of the collar a bit. So again, to unify those colors, I'm bringing in now some gold beads on top of that brassy, bronzy lace, and that sort of then brings that gold color through the rest of the piece. It was largely very focused at the front of the necklace because the lace is super gold at the front of the necklace and not so much in the back. So adding this beadwork over the top just starts to bring that through the rest of the necklace. And I'm using a size 6 gold seed bead. It's just one of those permanent galvanized seed beads, and then some size 15 gold seed beads as well. And the design is very much just following the pattern of the lace. There's nothing more to it than that. There's like little gaps and holes in the lace, and I've just followed that design and added the beads in those little gaps and following the shapes of that lace. So that's it for this part of the necklace. The next part is going to be quite involved, where I start to form it into a necklace. So I hope you're enjoying this series. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time in Faewood. Bye guys.